6:35. Agenda review. Does anybody have anything on the agenda? Any changes, updates? We're fairly full schedule tonight. Okay, I'll move on to public. Your participant, attendee.
I am curious about what policy or information is coming out around our undocumented families and what our approach is in policy, or I don't know if it's policy, but that's, I know that at the SAU 70 big meeting, there was, Jay talked about working on that. I'm wondering where we are, when we will have something solid to work from in terms of our response as teachers, as staff members here at the school if something happens, if ICE comes or et cetera. So that's a question I have that feels pressing.
Okay, we will, but I don't know if Jay or someone wants to answer that when he gets to the superintendent's comments. I don't have any answers unless anyone here on the board has an answer. I think obviously stuff's moving so fast at the federal level. It's kind of wait and see. Jay, I don't know. Jay's hand's up. Do you want to?
Yeah. Garrett, I'm sorry I can't be with you guys tonight. You wouldn't want me there. I just wanted to assure folks that this is something that we're all asking. In fact, we have a running text chain going with all the Vermont superintendents about what we should do. We don't have firm guidance yet, but it is a topic of urgency that we're seeking guidance on from the state. And so far, you know, we're just we know everybody's deeply concerned. I've heard some of the officials at the state level express their concern about it as well, but we're just still kind of back on our heels.
I heard something on NPR with the New Hampshire governor talking about it a bit on NPR this morning too. So it seems like they're all figured out real time, and she's probably a little bit conflicted given she's the Republican governor. Anyways.
Right, we are paying close attention to it, and we hope that within the next week or so we'll have at least some preliminary guidance.
Thank you.
For that comment, are there any other comments? I'm looking over. I don't see any others. Okay. If no other comments, we'll move on to our business. Our reports and presentations first. So first up is our enrichment grant presentation. Lucy, I think you were getting your presentation up on the screen here.
Are you ready for us? To help with Sean? Sean ran away. Okay. So we wanted to tell you about what we did with our enrichment grant, and thank you for your support. We went to the Reading League conference. Next slide, please. It was in Charlotte, North Carolina this past October, and the Reading League's mission is to advance awareness, understanding, and use of evidence-aligned reading instruction. So I'm sure you all follow along in the news. You know that there has been a lot of reading instruction across the country used, you know, for the past 20 years that is not really aligned with what neuroscientists and researchers who study the brain know about how the brain forms these neural connections that allow rapid automatic skilled reading. And that is particularly problematic for children who have more difficulty learning to read because they need more time and more practice to build those neural connections. And so they need instruction that supports that. So, you know, this is sort of called the science of reading, but that's a big term. And something that Tracy and I really appreciate about this conference is there are a lot of sort of beginner science of reading workshops out there, like if you are brand new to this. And we both have been doing this work for a long time, and this is sort of like a next level conference. And so it's a really great opportunity for us to travel there to learn sort of what the cutting edge science is, what people are thinking about and talking about nationally and internationally. Next slide, please.
And I'm Tracy Martell, by the way. I don't know if I've met many of you. I'm one of the special ed teachers here. Thank you. Hi. So some of the key facts about our experience, we attended 8 sessions each and we participated in 25 hours of development. Some of the workshops we attended were Is She on Grade Level, taking another look at how we discuss reading levels, help my students stuck on sound by sound reading, and all needs all the how. We were inspired by the experts and colleagues from around the world. There were over 2,500 educators and presenters from across the US and 7 other countries. This part was pretty cool. We were able to attend a workshop presented by Lindsay Kennedy, the author of 7 Mighty Moves, and that happens to be the book study that the Ray and the MCS Literacy Committee is using as their text right now. So it was great to meet the author and understand her strategies more deeper. We learned about some new resources for students and teachers. We started listening to a literacy focused podcast. We were able to bring back over 100 free decodable books. It was really cool. Lucy's luggage was freighted down. She had the soft kind, so we could expand it. And then a neat, just by chance thing is we found a reading theme park in downtown Charlotte that had delicious Indian food right next door, so we got to have that for dinner one night.
Here are pictures of us in action. Here's the reading theme park and us at the conference. Next slide, please. Okay, so we thought you might be interested in knowing, other than the fact that we had a great time and the Indian food was tasty, how our students at Marion Cross are benefiting directly from our learning at this conference. So one example is that we went to a workshop focused on difficulties with orthographic mapping. So orthographic mapping is when you instantly recognize a word, like you almost can't help yourself from reading the word, which is really different from a beginning reader who goes cat, oh, cat, right? And so particularly kids who struggle to learn to read more can be stuck at this like decoding stage, and they know how to decode, they've learned all the rules, but it's an incredibly laborious process. And as you can imagine, that does not support successful higher level reading, because you simply cannot read a novel that way or a chemistry textbook or something. And so we learned a more efficient and effective way to teach beginning readers, like from the beginning, when you notice that they're sort of struggling with this, like in kindergarten and first grade, instead of waiting until later, to help them more rapidly build those connections and make that orthographic mapping. And so we started, like we came back and we started using this with some of our kids, both in tier 2, which is intervention, and then tier 3, which is kids who are in special education with reading goals, in October, and we found it to be really successful. So that's great. Next slide, please. And another example is related. So difficulties with reading fluency. So like sort of the next step, once you get past those sounding out the words, the next sort of more difficult area to address of reading challenge is the speed at which kids read. So they might be able to read, say, 40 words a minute. They're not just going at anymore, but they need to really be able to read 160 words a minute. And so again, 40 words a minute is just not going to get you where you need to be. And when you have to spend so much time on your fluency, you have less brain power left for the comprehension, which is ultimately the goal. And this is sort of the notoriously most difficult thing to remediate. Because researchers think it's related to a brain process called rapid automatic naming. And so it's not just you're teaching kids, oh, this is the sound these letters make. It's actually like a part of their brain and the way their brain is wired that you're essentially trying to rewire. So imagine like you have someone who has a really weak muscle and they have to really like do all this physical therapy to strengthen it. It's kind of what you have to do in the brain to build that skill. So we see kids in tier 2 and tier 3 who really struggle in this. And we went to a session presented by the educational neuroscientists from Northwestern and Tufts. And they looked really carefully about what is effective and what is ineffective. And they found that some of the practices that if you Google, like, how do you help kids with poor reading fluency? The first things that pop up, like the things that everybody thinks they know, and that like teachers should do or parents should do are actually not effective when you do a controlled trial. And so they talked about what actually is effective. And we have purchased some new curriculum materials. Thank you, Sean, for your support. And we are going to go to a training in March. Thank you to Robin for her support with that. And I'm piloting right now this approach with some students who have really, really low fluency, but like sort of strong other skills. So I've already done all the other stuff that we have, and it's like work, but it hasn't fixed the fluency issue. And so we're really excited about that because in the long term, like having really poor fluency leads to a lot of difficulty down the line academically across areas. So we're really excited about that. Thank you for your support. Does anyone have questions? That's the next slide.
Excellent.
So thank you very much. Really helpful. And so now having been on the board for a couple of years, I feel like we've had a couple of reading presentations that have talked about, hey, for a long time, there was this balanced literacy theory that was not well supported scientifically, but was pervasive. And now people are following the science more and getting back to phonics and whatnot. So I read these slides as this is more like how this is more information and training on how we use like phonics and other things to really hammer into people how to be confident readers as opposed to like that balanced literacy approach. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, completely.
Okay.
And I think what I would say is I think are doing a much better job across the board in tier 1 of doing this phonics-based instruction for everyone. And we're hitting most of the kids and giving them what they need. And we've done a good job of that. We have a lot more like phonics-based decodable books for little kids to practice. Teachers have more resources than they did when I started reading across. And in intervention and in special education, where you have kids with diagnosed dyslexia or not diagnosed dyslexia, but like clear difficulties with reading, the sort of like, what is the next step? What does the research say to help those kids too? Tracy said we went to this presentation about all means all. And I mean, it really is challenging in a classroom. How do you meet the needs of kids who like you teach them, oh, this letter makes this sound once, and then they like got it and they're going, and versus kids who need like hundreds of repetitions to build that skill. And that's where intervention and special education come in. And so being able to educate ourselves on that is really helpful. And then also to be able to share that and sort of like, so before the kids, it's not like they just have to go to tier 3 to get that instruction, like to be able to share that more broadly and say, here are things that teachers can do in the classroom, you know, for everybody. And when you're teaching them to sound out these words, like, let's do it like this. So that then we have fewer kids who then end up with problems that we have to deal with later.
Thank you.
And we also have teachers who now are like, that conference sounds really great, like maybe I should go, like, wow, like this seems like you learned a lot of things. So I think that's really positive too, that other people are excited and they wanna learn and grow also professionally. And that's just gonna benefit kids.
Good, thank you.
Other questions, comments? Sean?
I still give an appreciation because both Lucy and Tracy are at the top of their practice. They're really great reading teachers, but still willing to go out and find new information, get excited about new things, bring them back here, continually change the culture of our school and step in that direction of better instruction. Thank you. It's much appreciated.
I think this is a great use of enrichment grant money. I think this is the sort of I think the intent and the thought that both the board and the association had behind this enrichment program in place. Can I ask a question that's not directly related to the conference?
Sure.
So, are we seeing, lingering effects of the pandemic in terms of reading?
It's a great question. So I would say our class sizes are really small, so it's sometimes hard for me to tell how much sort of like natural variability there is between like, okay, this is a cohort that's really strong versus this is a cohort that is less strong, right? Or like more kids in this cohort have difficulty with reading, because the reality is like some kids just, their brains are wired where reading is harder for them. I will say I started at Marion Cross in 2021, and I feel like the kids who were little when I started, like in K and 1, and Tracy started in 2022, right? I think we would both say like all the kids who have passed by us, we feel really good about the instruction that they've got. The kids who are older, like I do worry a little bit about some of those 5th graders, 6th grade, like, and I sort of wonder, like, if you had gotten different intervention, if you had been in a classroom in 1st grade and I'd actually been able to sit with you, would you not be having this difficulty now? Like, is it just the way that your brain is wired, or is it actually that we could have intervened? And that is our goal, is like to intervene really with those beginning readers so we don't see these difficulties with fluency and comprehension once they get to 5th and 6th grade. So are there kids who were not in person in 1st grade and kindergarten who have lasting effects? I think there probably are.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons that I asked the question is I'm trying to put into context the data that we just recently got at the state level,
Yeah,
not Marion Cross level, but state level, about declining results across the board.
oh, well, like the knee,
Right.
yeah,
And I'm trying to make sense of the data. And, part of me initially wanted to go, well, duh, of course the pandemic had an effect.
yeah.
Sounds like maybe not universally, though, attributable to what we may be seeing more broadly.
I mean, so nationally, those 4th graders who, last year's 4th graders who took the NAEP, right, down there 5th grade, they were in 4th grade, and we see those tanking 4th grade reading scores nationally. Those kids were in 1st grade in 2020. Right? That's right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that is a big part nationally. And then, some kids can go back when they were in 2nd grade, and 1st and 2nd grade are really crucial. I mean, the language building window actually, right, for language learning, where you're trying to, like, you're learning a second language, it gets harder. Like, that is when the brain is most open to developing these literacy skills. So that's why we really want to try to intervene in 1st and 2nd grade. By 3rd and 4th grade, it becomes harder. It can just progressively gets harder. Actually, if you look at the research on fluency, like the gains that kids can make in fluency with intervention, they can make like double the gains in 2nd grade that they can make with the same amount of intervention in 4th and 5th grade. So I think nationally, yes, that is for sure a pandemic kind of catch up. Luckily, I think a lot of our kids were in more school. And we've tried really hard to, we have a small enough cohort to like find those kids and still be giving them support and intervention, and not just say, oh, well, now they're in 5th and 6th grade, like, too bad. Like I always have some 5th and 6th graders in intervention to keep kind of building those skills for those who need it.
Most of that data, but then all ended 2022, all those graphs that were shown from the Secretary of Education, at least that I saw. Which is kind of interesting that it all is like, things are horrible, yet the most recent data point is 2022, which was basically technically the right low point of testing. Coming out of COVID.
Yes,
I don't,
yeah, one additional one, and this might be more a question for Robin and Jay, but would love your opinion on it. Whether it's COVID as an obstacle or the transition from one set of assumptions about how to teach reading to another. I guess I hear about your success here, but wonder, hey, we're all school board members from K through 12. Like, how worried do you need to be about like deficiencies in reading skills for like grade 5 and beyond? And if there is reason to worry, like, is that a topic of conversation among the whole school district, and are you involved in that? And so I just think about, you don't have a great foundation as a reader here. Boy, junior high is gonna be tough, high school's gonna be tough. And like, what, there may be some things that the school board and the staff can do about it, so I'd love some perspective on
I
that.
think that's a great question, especially about the middle school. And obviously in Ray, they're sending 6th graders there too, so like what kind of support do they have available for kids who need reading support? Obviously if you're on an IEP, you have a special educator, but what kind of intervention do they have? And I think that's a great question for Robin. And I imagine you all know Robin is running, we have a literacy committee that's combined Ray and MCS. And what we're trying to do is better align both our assessment and our curriculum.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately, I hope that that will help the middle school, because then they're getting kids in, if we have shared assessments too, it's an easier way to say like, oh, look, these are the kids across the board going into middle school who need help, right? Because these are the kids on the same assessment, who have the same instruction, who still need help building these skills. So I think that that's like a down the line goal that we're working toward. But it's a really good question, because you're exactly right. I mean, the research tells us kids who struggle to read struggle across the board academically, as they go forward. And you can accommodate with audiobooks and other things, but it's such a foundational skill.
Thank you.
questions? That sounded like it was worth. Wow, I was personally taken aback just by the fact that you learned some things that you didn't know that you put in place. Right?
Yes.
So that was pretty, that was definitely eye-opening to hear, so. Glad that you guys are taking advantage of these and searching these things out. So,
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
thank you. Okay. On to the PTO report.
I am here, hello. I'm Leanna Fosco, the president of PTO this week. So looking back at January, on January 17th, we hosted a skating party. We partnered with Norwich and the Norwich Farm Framework. It was cool, but there's lots of good cocoa. And, the cocoa was exceptional. It was like, it puts Christmas to shame. So a big thank you to Laura and Chris from Norwich Farm Framework. They not only did we print, but they came and they poured all of the cocoa, which is really great. On January 23rd, we helped out with Literacy Night, which was Jillian Meadows and Lizzie Hampton. So the PTO gave a $500 grant this year, which I believe was maybe spent on pizza, maybe on other things. We also helped them connect with the Dartmouth English department, who I think will be even more involved and will be ready to partner and sponsor for next year as well. And okay, our winter and spring grant cycle is now open. So we do winter spring grants on a rolling basis. So if you have a great idea, you can go on a simple Google form. We accept grants from staff, students, community members. So that is open and available until funds are exhausted or until March, I believe it's 21st. We do have one grant request that we received. And I presented to the 6th graders on Tuesday of last week, so I'm expecting some very interesting ones. I'm very excited. for that. Yes, so that'll be really great. I'm excited to get them involved. We've also been supporting Chrissy Morley and her initiatives at the school or surrounding student sandwich day. I don't know how much of this you all know, but she has this idea that we're gonna serve a student sandwich, one that the classes are going to cook. 2 grade levels a week are going to cook soup and then serve it to everyone in the cafeteria. So her vision is that she wanted to get like a core group of dedicated volunteers who would come in on Tuesday morning and help cook soup. And then there are some other, basically she's imagining like a volunteer crew that she can, text to go pick up potatoes at the farm down the road. So we're hoping to get that organized, and that is underway, and we should have more on that. We have some big ideas, and that's an exciting initiative. We're excited about. On February 4th, we hosted a coffee talk with Greg and Sean. They talked about PBIS. That was great, super informative. Thank you. I think parents really enjoy getting to talk and hear what you guys, what everyone has to say on them. So upcoming next week, week after, wait, Friday, February 14th, next week. Next Friday. Next Friday will be the Valentine's Day staff appreciation breakfast, provided by all the 4th and 6th grade families. So there will be a lovely spread, I'm sure, for all staff at the school. Friday, March 7th, it's in the morning, we have a PTO meeting. In the evening, it's late at night, which is really fun as well. And then Friday, March 21st, grant cycle closes, and then March 28th, we have a date set for the livestock. So it's an annual tradition that everyone loves. That's it. Things are going well. We have, I think everything's good. Good. Any questions?
Busy. Any questions for Leah?
I make a comment.
Sure.
Jillian and I really appreciate the PTO supporting litter tonight. We had 180 children and their families come, and everyone got a free book, and we celebrated all sorts of things, vocabulary and phonics, and there was karaoke for building fluency, and people made blackout poetry, and parents read to their children, and was really great, and this was the first one we've done, and we're gonna do it again next year. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay. Questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, Leah. As always. Okay, on to our business requiring discussion, preparations for our annual meeting. By that, I'm assuming the town meeting.
Well, probably the informational hearing, but
Informational hearing. I just pulled my calendar, so that is, looks like that is gonna be what, Monday, the 3rd, right?
yes.
Monday evening, the 3rd at 7 p.m. I know Jamie just kind of had the final numbers, I think, all in. And as far as preparations for that, I mean, we usually do do you want to do your thing? Do you want to start turning that over to somebody? I don't know if you've got some graphics and that kind of thing that are easily filled in with data already made in PowerPoint.
I have 10 years of presentations that I can, pull from to put something together, so. If you would like me to do the budget, I can do the budget.
Are you okay doing that again?
Sure.
At some point, I think I was kind of driving the other day and thinking like, if Neil does do that, oh gosh, like as far as pulling together the graphics and the Excel graphs and all that. But yes,
I can do the budget.
if you need help on that beforehand, except for February break week, we're around, so I should get through anything. Yes.
You will know that Jamie contacted me after the warrant had already been signed, saying the long-term average weighted daily people number had changed. So that's not reflected in the warrant, and you may want to highlight that in your presentation.
Got better.
It got better, but we can, once it's been signed, it's signed. So,
But I think in general, that percentage anyways, is like,
But it's not terribly meaningless. I mean, it's your ed spending for long-term rated ADM and your taxes are directly based on that number. So it's not.
Doesn't it exclude something? It's because it's not the exact number, it's in there.
Wow.
Just as long as it's noted and,
Yeah.
you know, it's different on the.
It wouldn't be the first. year.
Sorry, Jamie, get your hand up.
Here, Jamie.
Jamie's jumping up and down on the yellow hand. Jamie?
So that is correct. And I have made it very clear in the brochures that go out that the two numbers are different. It's reflected in the brochures that will be hitting everybody's doorstep. So if there's any confusion, hopefully, you know, folks will take a minute to, they usually read those brochures. So while I didn't catch it in print in the annual report, it will be in the brochure. And I have sent all of the other information to Miranda, so we should be okay.
And Jamie, when you say the difference in the numbers, you mean just the old number versus the new number, is that what you mean?
Say that again?
When you say the difference in numbers, you mean just the old ADM versus the new ADM, is that what you mean?
Correct. So when it puts the little disclosure on it that we were required to put back on, the percentage of increase per LTW ADM on the warrant article will be higher than what is actual, because between when we ratified it and when the right LTW ADM number finally got ratified, there was a delay. So the percentage of increase for LTW ADM, right, is lower than what it shows in the article's disclosure.
Okay. Any other comments there? All right, we'll move on to our next item. Is there any other, again, other than presentation, all of us being there at 7 p.m.? Yes.
Noting that the school board will go before the select board
You go
because we're
first.
first on the ballot.
Okay.
Thank you.
Eight numbered years.
My favorite.
Okay. We have the calendar. Up, which we approved the calendar. So I'm looking at the business prior action. It's a bit of an approved calendar tonight. Thanks. Does anybody have any comments? I know we've reviewed this calendar, SAU and at Dresden in the past month. This is the correct calendar. For those Norwich residents that weren't there at the SAU meeting, we had a presentation by the calendar committee last week, which was super helpful. And there are going to be a number of days that are going to be highlighted in a different color for the calendar, where teachers are supposed to be not giving homework and not doing tests for certain other holidays. But this here is the actual calendar that will stand regardless with regards to the actual days off that the students will not be at school. Those will just be notifying teachers when other religious holidays and whatnot are happening. Okay.
Just to highlight, because I keep getting questions about this, it is not a typo. The February vacation is the last week of February. So people keep looking at it and asking, do we really mean that? And we really mean it, so.
I swear we used to flip flop back and forth, but this is the year where we're going back to and this is what New Hampshire is. So New Hampshire also will be on this. And actually this year, New Hampshire is the last week as well. They're not President's Day week. Mike.
I attended those meetings and I grumpily made the point, but I think 2 weeks is too darn long for the kids to be out of school. There's nothing to be done about that, other than be grumpy and make us think about it. It's a long time to go without childcare or schooling. With that, I would say let's move on.
That might, I was pretty excited for a full 2 weeks.
Garrett, I just had one comment, if I could.
My kids can take care of themselves, I guess,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
Yes, Jay?
I just wanted to expand on what Lisa mentioned. At the SAU meeting, we talked about trying to put all those dates on this calendar, all in the same calendar with different color coding. Ryan's trying, but it's really challenging. We're thinking we're to make a companion calendar to go with it.
Good.
That'll be for instructional purposes and to be able to make other people aware of other folks' cultural practices and their religious holidays.
Got it. Perfect. All right, thank you, Joe. And again, for Norwich residents that missed the SAU, there's a video of that. If you want to go look at the presentation, all the work that was done by the calendar committee, it's all there. Okay. We're moving on to our policy. This is the district employee non-resident students policy. And I apologize, Jay. When we left our last meeting, was there additional changes to this? This is now, I think, the fifth reading.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's there are no changes. It's just that we wanted to verify the information about special education and as it stands now, the legal advice that we got is correct. We can't discriminate on the basis of any disability. Our recourse, if we do end up having a staff member who has a child with a disability who wants to enroll, if we can accommodate the student with the services that we have available, we can do that. If not, the option then becomes us trying to negotiate with the district of residence to provide any um, above and beyond special education services. Uh, or we simply they have to give up their right to a free and appropriate public education for their student with a disability, much the way that our private tuition folks do. So that would be up to the employee bringing the child. My guess, like if it was a situation where there was a really big expense, like an out of district placement, those are typically our costliest services to provide for students. That wouldn't come to us anyway. That would go to the home district. So, again, the provisions that the lawyer put into the policy that have us do an analysis after the first year and decide whether to continue it or not would I think protect us adequately. And I think if we can get this across the finish line, I think it's going to be a great recruitment and retention tool for our staff.
You got a hand down there.
I really want to get this approved. I have a question though. Given that one of the things that we discussed as a long-term goal is moving sixth grade over to RMS. And recognizing that you guys can look at this and edit it yearly. Noting the former part of that sentence, I wonder if saying that the student will be enrolled up until grade 6 is something that should be there, or up until graduation from Marion Cross, or up until the graduating class of Marion Cross. But again, that's something that can be changed in a later version of this should plans to move to RMS be brought forward. Sorry, I want to know.
No, I think.
I don't think it's a deal breaker, but.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments or thoughts on this?
I am extremely conflicted over this one, especially in light of some of the stuff that's going on in the legislature right now and proposed changes to education in Vermont. I think that there are implications both on the financial side of things, if we were they're not going to try to do this in a nutshell. They're entertaining a foundation-based formula, which means that you get a certain amount of money per student. That would obviously exclude any student that was coming in under this policy. You would get $0 for these kids. Currently, what's being considered right now, I am seeing either a very limited or no option at all for the local school district to raise additional money beyond that foundation amount. Right now, we're looking at, statewide, the governor's proposal is a reduction of about $180 million from current funding for education in Vermont. So I worry that we're headed in a direction where, we may be dealing with a substantially lower budget for next year than this year. In addition to that, there could potentially be mandated class sizes in Vermont moving forward that could be higher than what we've got here, which is in some regards is a good thing for this policy, but in other regards, I think a bad thing. There is a potential discussion that the configuration change may lead to statewide school choice. In which case then this policy almost becomes moot, at least for those Vermont residents. And so I'm just, I completely understand the need and the desire to get something passed to provide some certainty for those staff members that are looking at this for next year and want to be able to nail stuff down. But I am equally concerned about the uncertainty that we're looking at in terms of what's going to happen to education in Vermont and putting ourselves in a position where we're going to have tough decisions to make about our resident kids, let alone students that may be coming in out of district. And so I don't know.
We just didn't realize if we're capped at the amount that they're giving us, how per student, that means you can't spend any more. How will we even deal with that?
It's a great question.
And then Dresden, like we're only gonna be given a certain amount of money that we could then give to Dresden per student.
So, part of the challenge here is like there are so many unanswered questions at this stage. And when I look at this policy and that landscape, I'm hesitant to approve something now. When I know that my landscape might change in, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15 months. Right.
Mr. Chair?
Jay, do you have something in response to that?
Yeah, and it's really a question for Neil. Neil, can you imagine a brief statement, some language to add to the policy? Sort of contingent language that would trigger if there's a significant change in state policy or law, that the policy would be suspended or.
Yeah.
I mean, we're dealing with so much uncertainty on so many levels, both federally and at the state level. I hate for us to be paralyzed if there's a way we could protect ourselves. And of course, you could always bring the policy up and rescind it. The trick is if we have people enrolled, then we've made a commitment.
Right, and that's the part that concerns me, like, we could always, even in the policy as it's written right now, it says each April, the board needs to reevaluate whether or not we want to continue this. And it's not, my worry is not being able to undo a policy that we've done. My worry is by putting it into effect and having people jump up and take advantage of it. Now I'm removing, I'm taking away something that people were getting, and I don't feel comfortable about that.
Lisa?
Yeah, 2 questions. I thought somewhere in the policy, and I'll have to look at it, that we had something in there that if we had made a promise to a family and a kid that it would continue, we just wouldn't add people. So we wouldn't be taking it away per se. I guess the problem is the funding, but my question for Neil is, I haven't been following the legislature as closely as you have, but it feels I don't quite understand the concern about how school choice, your statement that it would make this moot or for Vermont residents, because it feels as if there was school choice, the money would follow those kids to us if those kids were here, correct?
Right. That's what the policy is.
So that would be yeah, okay.
We wouldn't need this policy.
We wouldn't need this policy, well, we would, yeah, I mean, we would need it in that it would give priority to, like, for the school choice, I think it would give priority to the kids whose parents worked here, right? I mean, the way it reads, it,
With school choice, and that is what could be. You know, quick, keep me honest here, but if it was school choice in the way that this legislature. Or the. Governor may want it, it means that you would take your public money, you want it without.
yeah, no, I understand it, but I guess I just was saying it would. It feels as if the way that, I mean, I'd have to look at it again in light of that, but it feels as if this would give priority. There would, if we have school choice, we still have limited number of kids we can accept at this school. And it feels as if this policy would still be an incentive for teachers in that it would give them priority. Their kids priority over children at large. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So I guess I'm not seeing how it would be moot. I think it still would be an enhancement. But I could be wrong.
I think unfortunately the foundation formula is probably.
The foundation formula is a bigger conundrum, but that part of it, I was just sort of like, yeah,
Nobody knows what the legislature is gonna do.
yeah.
Legislature doesn't know what the legislature is gonna do. Given that level of uncertainty, I don't think there's any contingency language that would be able to be broad enough to capture every single contingency. I think we need to run our school district and then figure out what happens from there. I think, you know, every month we found a reason to put this off another month. I think either we should vote for it as is, up or down. If we don't want to do it, given the uncertainty, that's perfectly fine. As far as taking away from somebody, I'm very sensitive to that. It makes a very good point. Me personally, just speaking for myself, I have no problem telling a local family that state government has screwed up another aspect of local public education. And like, this is just another piece of it. Those are my preferences. I think either we should approve it or deny it and move on and say, look, it's just not the right time. But it's just my 2 cents.
I mean, in some ways, if they pass the foundation formula, then it completely messes with our budget, we may need something like this as an incentive to keep people, well, I guess we can't change the contracts, right, so we can just be letting people on. I just don't know how they could go through, I mean, that foundation formula that you can't add on top of it for your taxpayers once they're more, because then that goes against our Supreme Court case, right, or advocate us to issue education, so. Are you?
I also just, I tend to agree with you, Garrett, that given potentially massive changes, we may be in a position of having to adjust or rescind lots of different policies. And so if this is one of those, we offered it to benefit, now we have to rescind it.
So when could we, so when do people start accepting this, like, as far as, what's the timeline here?
No, it's in June.
It's April. Yeah.
So they'll start saying, I'd like my kid to come here, and what are we talking for numbers, we think, 10?
Around 10 as well. We could look at it past, like a couple, 2-3 months ago, when we were considering the bank for those numbers. I think it's right around 10.
And that'd be across, even down to pre-K, right? So we're talking a few percent. Or 300. Sorry, 320.
Yeah.
Or 3%. Lisa?
Yeah, I agree with what Michael said, and am wondering if it is worth having, if we could, like, when we vote on this, if we add the language that Lily suggested about through their graduation from Marion Cross, just to not complicate things with the Dresden district. So I'm trying to avoid complicating things with Dresden as much as possible.
May I ask, though, are you asking for a change in language to?
Yeah, just to comment, like where it says through 6th grade and instead say what Lily, I forget what words she used, but yeah.
As a proponent of moving 6th grade to the Richmond Middle School, I have not sensed on this board or the other boards nearly an appetite that seems to be on the same road the middle school sports was on Like that is a very, very slow boat, and so. And my preference would be to keep the language as is, and it can be updated if sixth grade ever moves to RMS. Or wherever sixth grade may move under a reformed education. We're doing some old fashioned artisanal teaching.
We'll keep Lily's comment in mind for the future. I do think, at least my perspective is that this policy is clearly for MCS. So if that changes, we'll obviously revise the policy.
Okay.
And Garrett, Greg had his hand up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Greg, I saw your hand up. Was that on this one?
Yeah, thanks for, I lowered it. I think you guys get my point, but I was just gonna make the point a little bit more. I know as a board, you're looking into the future. And then as like a teacher, you're looking at like tomorrow, and as an admin, you're looking at a couple months. So staff are already thinking about if they want to apply, if something opens up at MCS, if they want to return. So I think it's just really important to know the immediacy of those decisions are happening like now. So I just want to make sure to make that point.
Okay. Any more discussion on this? I guess to this end, do we want to pull this out of the, do you want to have a separate vote on this one? Given the fact that we made, as opposed to a resolution?
Be wise. You should.
Why not?
Okay, any more comments on that? All right, Jamie, I know you had presented this at the Dresden meeting. This is the purchasing card program. Basically moving over from our annex to a MasterCard.
That's correct. And it's a MasterCard whereby we would be, for each one of our districts would be separate. And then depending on what state, Vermont or New Hampshire, we at the end of, I think it's at the end of the first quarter of the new year, which would be like March 30th, they look at all of the total expenditures for everybody in that state. And then they issue rebates, and you share in the percentage of the rebate that is issued back to your state. This is run by the Illinois Association of School Business Officials. They started the program. And I posted an overview of a bunch of the different states that participate. There are multiple states that participate, and there are multiple districts that participate within the states of Vermont and New Hampshire. The only reason I hadn't joined earlier is because it used to be a direct debit program, which means that every time somebody would use the card, it would automatically hit your bank account and withdraw. And I didn't like that. I didn't feel it had the right protections in place, but they have at some point changed that, where you can request to be a statement purchaser so that that doesn't happen. And so after they've made that change, I'm all for us switching to this program. And it requires a resolution and a vote.
Any questions for Jamie on this one? All right, Jamie, we all heard the last one. Everyone agrees this is a good idea. Obviously, we'll vote, but it makes a ton of sense. All right, on to our item E. We are sad to see Lily moving on. This is her last meeting.
For Norwich, there's still more coming up for Dresden.
Yeah, there's like the last week of February.
I'm almost there.
So here we have a, I don't know, if would someone like to read? I can read it. Lily will embarrass you.
Yeah, don't feel like you
We
need
can take turns.
I think it's
each
important to
line.
do a quick read, just to.
Yeah.
Do it the radio answer.
You want to do it?
Sure.
Okay. Resolution of the Norwich School Board, February 5th, 2025. Whereas one person can make a difference through service to one's community, and whereas Lily Tallman served as a member in good standing of the Norwich, SAU, and Dresden school boards for 3 years, serving from 2022 to 2025, and Whereas Lily Trallman served on numerous committees during her term of office, including the Enrichment Grant, the After School Program Committee, and the Superintendent Performance and Evaluation Committee. And whereas Lily Trallman has been a tireless advocate and spokesperson for students, parents, and the board. And whereas Lily Trallman's unwavering principle stand on numerous topics has served as an example for all board members. And whereas Lily Trallman has served as an invaluable asset to board members and will offer guidance and direction for countless generations of future board members in the Norwich, Dresden, and whereas Dresden and Norwich schools not only maintained, but also in many respects improved upon their quality during Lily Trallman's years of service as a board member in Norwich and Dresden, we, the undersigned, extend our heartfelt gratitude and deep appreciation for the difference that Lily has made in the lives of students in Norwich, Vermont during her years of service and for many years to come. All of us kind of not signed, but signed electronically.
Well, I second that, Lily, so thank you very much, and I'm looking for a board member a few years ago, you very kindly stepped up, and it's been reassuring to have all your comments and help along the way these past 3 years in working with you, so I do appreciate that.
Can I tell you that it's been a delight to work with such a functional board,
Yes.
having attended a lot of select board meetings over the last year or two. I really appreciate how well the Norwich School Board and the Dresden and SAU boards work as a team. And I feel bad leaving right now, and I feel like I finally understand the budget calculations and negotiations and everything else.
It's probably kind of leave it, they'll change anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really looking
You have no
forward to
value.
watching on Zoom for the next several years.
And we can see you across the street.
You can please come visit anytime you want in the beautiful basement of Tracy Hall.
We'll have you come and sit in the road sometime on your way home. All right, well, again, thank you very much, and we'll be sad to see you go, but I know you've got a lot going on, so.
I thought we should clap or something.
On to our data governance manual.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Patton, the Director of Educational Technology for SMU Study. This might be very fast. Essentially, the EHAB policy of data governance and security references a data plan that needs to be presented. But I was told a couple of days ago that you guys don't have EHAB, it's the other schools, so as a courtesy, it's been presented to. I shared the document on Word docs with you all. And essentially, tonight is about sort of saying, I think this needs a deeper vision. I would like to take that time to revise it and come back to you later in the school year. There was some discussion about, I have a presentation if you're interested in why, but if we're going to give that presentation, I prefer to give it in executive session, much of the same reason we have for our cybersecurity stuff, but there's stuff that we prefer to go. So I have to do that. Or if you guys are comfortable sort of saying, no, we understand that, that's great, as long as it's presented to us by June, by the end of June, I'm hoping to do April or May, then great, thank you. See you in a few months.
The boards get comments on that, I would take your recommendation. So it sounds like in the executive session, you'd rather go back, redo this, and then come back and do an executive session on this once it's more fully baked and you've actually dug into it.
Yeah, the executive session today would be about my concerns about the existing one, not the new one, and where we can go into that one. But I would prefer to do that.
Executive, so you'll still do the executive session with us today, or?
And not if you guys sort of say, no, we're very fine with you just coming back and presenting it once in 2 months.
Just two quick things that personally I'm comfortable. I believe that you have concerns with this and that we'd be in a better position to say, hey, I'm coming back with my recommendations on what to do about it. I just want to say in a public session that I've been really impressed each time working with you. Your clear-eyed view, like this is a big deal. Hey, we need to address these things. We need to make steady incremental progress on what's something that's not like a one-off thing. So there's just gonna be continuous monitoring, improvement, et cetera. And so I appreciate your approach. I have no concern with you doing the work and coming back.
My standard governance, question, maybe concern, so I know that the current document is specifically focused on New Hampshire statutes. And I'm curious to know whether or not, to the extent that, I mean, we have systems that we use, in particular that are mandated, I believe, by the state of Vermont in order to be able to exchange data. Should the governance plan cover, does the governance plan need to be concerned about Vermont law as well?
That's a reasonable request, and I'm happy to make sure that I strive to make sure it does. But my guess is that there wouldn't be anything we're doing other than presenting it to you at a time frame that security wise, we wouldn't do for both.
Right, I just know in the existing document, there's a lot of references to New Hampshire RSA statute, and I wonder if we also, in order to be doing this the right way, we should also be making sure that we're complying with Vermont statute as well too, in particular, if anything's like.
Yeah, like I said, happy to do that, but you guys don't actually have any, do you?
I haven't looked.
That was what I was told. I didn't really realize that, so it's kind of
So
like,
then the question becomes like, is it a single document? Or is it two?
I didn't
separate?
plan to sell on the audience, I just want to sort of say, but the top thing was, do you guys, are there extreme discomforts with making it a single document? Which is what I would like to do. Because it's essentially what's happened before is they made it one document, but they did it, and then they just cloned it and gave it a different name. Which is kind of like, I did a diff across the documents and, this one has 2 periods on the 4th page, in the 2nd paragraph. I think there was literally 1 word difference, and I'm just kind of like. But, I could look into that and you and I could have a discussion and we can have that as part of the generation, but I guess there is one question tonight for the board, which is and it's a sort of an odd question to ask this board, since you don't have this policy, but I think we did for a second. Would you guys be okay with one data governance plan for the SMB? Is there some reason that we can't have that? My sense of it is policy is law, procedure is making sure that we do the policy, but we have more freedoms here. But this is a new area.
So just a quick question, just to level set on this. So the existing data governance plan, is this new for the whole district? That you got, that you shared here?
This is a clone of the old one with just a new title page. And where it said district, I put in SAU 7. That's the only change from the old one.
But as far as all of the kind of areas of comfort, concern, high concern,
Right.
that would be relevant to the entire district.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yeah.
obviously this data governance plan right now
Covers all of our data.
and saying that, hey, this is something that district wide,
Yes.
you're in the process of bringing up.
SAU 1, right?
And just to be clear for everyone, just to make sure, so the data governance, just maybe go into security versus data governance, kind of what's your, how, kind of put that in layman's terms, just so everyone kind of.
Sure, it's sort of.
What this whole plan is and why we're doing this and why it's important and.
Yeah, I mean, the second slide was a little bit of humor, which was, Gandalf saying, keep it secret, keep it safe. Which is essentially the heart of this. So we are becoming more and more dependent on data. There's a sort of concomitant, we must protect this data at all costs, and it must be used by a whole bunch of people all the time. So that's the part of the dance that we are doing. It sort of says, no one will have access to the data that shouldn't have access to data. It's all very reasonable, all 38% is a reasonable thing. But it's a kind of, the tricky part is sort of saying, I want to make sure that the documents that presented to you is honest, is clear, because we can sort of say, I mean, think of it a little bit, when I was on a school board and someone came in and demanded that we create a policy to end racism. And I sort of said, we have to follow policy or we're out of compliance. We'd be happy to create a policy that says we'll strive against it and we'll do everything we can to, I can't, and this is a similar sort of thing. It's sort of like, you are protected 100%. We've never, and it's like, I'd like to get you guys in front so that when I come to you with decisions about money and allocation of budget, you'll have a better sense of like, we really are white. Here, we're okay over here. Probably this is happening. They already done this, sort of thing. Those are specifics I would prefer. get into, but
And Jay, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thanks, Garrett. Yeah, I think it'd be an easy matter for us to, to do a cross-reference with the model policy manual at VSBA and to double check the legal references. When this policy came in, there was a flurry of data related and computer related policies that New Hampshire passed, and we had it was right when Josh took over, and so New Hampshire made us jump to and develop all of this document as well as a number of others, and to start to do inventories of software. And it's interesting when I look at the Norwich policy manual, two of those policies were EHAA and EHAC, and the one that requires this document, EHAB, was not adopted by Norwich, primarily because it wasn't required to be. And so it was sort of a, if you don't have to jump through this particular hoop, we won't do it. We may want to revisit that and take a look at EHAB in policy. But in the short run, what we can do with this project is just do another cross-reference with Vermont law.
Because I'm understanding then, we don't need the policy here in Norwich,
I'm assuming that's why you don't have it.
which is why I'm headed.
Right, but we have all of our kids' data in the same place, It's like it just
Oh, no, I'm saying, I'm just making a difference here between the data governance, you know, plan versus an actual policy. And I guess where I'm going with this is I think we absolutely should have the data governance plan, and Norwich should be absolutely part of it and following it and all that. The question is we don't need to proactively make a policy if the state of Vermont doesn't need to make a policy. I guess I'm kind of one of those, especially in the area of security and data governance, why put yourself out there?
I wouldn't be surprised if that's the exact argument that was made in 2019 when this happened before.
Right.
And just sort of said, we get all the benefit of it because we have to do it for all of our systems that we all use. But
But if the state's not having us
sign this,
do a policy, anyway, I guess where I'm going with that is, I guess, is I think, yeah, I would be, unless you feel like you want to talk about the problems with this, I don't know if we need to spend a lot of time here. You don't need to be wasting your night telling us what's wrong with this. I think it's more that I would be in favor of, sounds like you're doing this district wide and this is the plan and we're all gonna fall in line behind it as a district, so.
so we hope, and but I wanted to give you the option to look at it, but yeah, completely like,
Okay.
we're gonna rebuild it, and so.
If we're moving that, then we would definitely get that out of the agenda, because we will not be approving the data governance plan tonight as it's currently drafted, obviously.
We've been almost back to answer additional questions after the meeting with that.
Would anyone like to discuss this in executive session from a board perspective? Do we feel a need to go through kind of some of the concerns of what's wrong with the existing?
No.
I think kind of rehashing what's wrong with the existing plan, if it's, they're gonna be fixing it, I don't think it's worth any of this time in a minute, so. Any questions, comments? No. Okay, sorry, Mom, does anybody have their hands up? Okay, well, I think that's super helpful, thank you very much for doing this
Yeah,
work.
thank you.
As Michael says, second Lee says, I think, everything since you come aboard has been top notch, so. But we'll move you down this road.
Thank you.
Do not feel like you need to stay here either for the rest of the meeting if you have stuff to do.
It's good for me to be here.
But- Okay. All right, so back to our agenda. I believe that was our last item. So again, I think what we'll do here is now moving on to business requiring action. I think we will pull out the manual and we will pull, so we'll pull out the manual because we're not gonna vote on that at all. And then I think we will pull, policy GJFAB. Why don't we use that is a separate vote. Without Jay or Jamie here, do we want to leave the numbers as is and basically make a motion for approving items B, C, D, E, and H, Would that be? Okay. And again, we're gonna drop G and we'll make a separate vote on F. So do I have a motion for? I'm still here, Michael?
Yeah, make a motion to approve items B, C, D, E, and H.
Second.
By Lily, all those in favor? So that is unanimous. Okay, now I'll have a motion for approving policy GJFAB. Motion for
I'll do that one. I move to approve policy GJFAB.
that. Is that a second? Do we have this further discussion on this?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I want to support it, in different circumstances, I absolutely would. I just think for me, the uncertainty is just a little bit too great in the education space for me to approve this tonight, but, I understand the need for it in the district. I would feel really bad, if we set this up, if we had 10 families take advantage of this and then find ourselves in a position where we needed to take it away. Because and it's this stupid, weird space, right? Like my job, one of my jobs with the rest of you, right, is to make sure that I am doing the best that I can for the residents of this community, the students that live here, right? And it's this really weird position where part of that responsibility is making sure that I've got great teaching staff in front of those kids on a daily basis. And if in order to do that, I need to offer an additional benefit to make sure that that happens. And at the same time, bring in additional kids that then may jeopardize my ability to effectively serve the students that live in this. It's this weird circular thing that's just, I don't like it. I don't like it. But I totally get the need. And maybe a year from now, when everything is settled down and we got more certainty and I know exactly how this new system is gonna work, I'd be like, absolutely, let's do this. But right now, I can't.
Okay. Lloyd?
Can I amend my motion? Because I didn't actually read the recommended action,
Oh, yes.
which says to approve, I move to approve policy GJFAB and GJFAB-R as presented.
I'll second
Just to be very specific
Okay.
about that.
Because you didn't do the R.
I did not do
it.
the
are.
Okay, got it. All right. Our discussion still stands, and Neil's point still stands. Do we have any other comments from board members on this, or thoughts or discussion? Michael?
I just want to say I respect Neil's opinion on, education system as a whole and part of uncertainty in Montpelier, and his reservations on his policy. The cone of uncertainty in Vermont education right now is unusually large. I'd like to think that in every version of the future, part of my job is to make sure that we recruit and retain talented teachers. I too will feel bad if this turns into a take back. At that point, I would feel comfortable delivering that news. The way you deliver bad news, which is directly, which is, hey, the rules of the game have changed. But I'd rather dare in the direction of trying to recruit and retain our team. And so, but with a lot of respect for the Neil's point of view. Instead, it's all upset.
Discussion on that? Yeah, personally, I'm conflicted now because I respect everything Neil says on this one. I do think, unfortunately, from my perspective, that the state of Vermont is upside down so much right now. I guess I'm putting some faith in that sanity will prevail and that we won't be in quite as dire a situation as at least what's being proposed in the first month, and balancing that by the fact that try to make an effort for the teachers. And I would say the only question I had before I put my vote in as far as the potential take back, how would that work? Because the teachers technically would be committing to the position here with their child attending. And then if we had to unwind that, that'd be a little tricky. Like say August, unwinding that, say, I'm sorry you're here now, but meanwhile your kindergartner now has to be dropped off in your hometown. I'm not sure if there's anyone is able to answer that, but, well,
Can I ask a timeline related question?
sure.
Is this going to come down the pike in time for the next school year, fall of 2025?
Is which.
Or
I think your
funding,
question is, will this funding
Will the
formula be in
funding
place for the
formula change?
next school year?
right, I mean,
Yes,
are we
that's
gonna
right.
get a year out of this policy before we would have to reevaluate?
Are they looking to put I'm sorry, the foundation plan in place for the next
I
budget
thought
cycle?
that was not.
Potentially, yes, but I mean, Lily is right, because we've already developed a budget for next year.
Right.
Under the current formula, that's something crazy happens,
And that's released.
I don't see that thing changing, so this policy and these families that wanna take advantage of it now would be under the existing formula, the existing parameters, the existing circumstances for the budget that we just wrapped up and it's going up orders in March. So yes, you would have a year minimum before anything potentially changed.
I guess if I'm voting for this, I would let people know for the record then that if there's a foundation funding formula that comes through for the fiscal year 26-27, do I have my numbers right?
Yes,
Then I will probably be moving to rescind this if it looks like it's just a burden on the district and we are we were completely upside down because of the foundation funding formula, so. Okay, more comments, Lily?
In the spirit of Neil, then I will remind you that you would be in the hole for the 10 children that you're already putting through under this policy, right? So there's no take backsies for that. You can
for the kids,
potentially not admit more, but you're on the hook for the children that join for fall of 2025, no matter what.
Oh, I see, because we would not be,
Currently, as the policy is written. you
Yes,
cannot
we can't
remove children
rescind it.
in the school once they're already.
we would just not allow any others to come in.
right?
So we would be stuck with 10 in 1 year.
Yes.
So basically, to summarize, whoever we let in this year would stay through their completion of sixth grade. According to how it is written, or when they,
From
But
MC.
it changed.
right,
I mean, I don't want to kick this down the road again, but to Jay's point, he raised that point. He said, do we want to add something in there? It says that we would rescind that and that people would then, for that next year, the clause of having them be able to keep it for the entire time that they're here. I mean, it does sound like it's a reasonable ask, right? I'm just saying, that if we were to, I hate to be talking about this again here, but let's just say that, we take 10 kids in, and then in a year from now, for 26-27, our funding formula is completely upside down, and these extra 10 kids are really weighing on it. We would obviously give them plenty of notice to say, hey, you know what, for the next school year, we are not able to commit to keep you here for the next 5 years, or having your kid attend Marion Cross for the next 5 years, and we would rescind the policy. I mean, that I think is what Jay was proposing.
Yeah, I would, you already, I don't think this now is the right moment, but I would also say, I would also advise not to do that, right? Because, if you're gonna pass the policy, pass it so that the people that are able to take advantage of it have significant amount of certainty that this thing is gonna move forward. If you start adding all these other caveats, you've created this giant world of uncertainty. It seems like it's benefit, but it might go away, and that's not good for anybody.
Which to the point about with our teacher last year, she would, like, she wanted the certainty to be able to make a decision long term. Okay, I get that. All right, any other discussion? It's a risky one. All right, yes.
I think if this policy doesn't pass, it's gonna be really devastating to some really fantastic teachers. And I think you should plan on having some teachers leave and teachers that make a big difference here. I know it's complicated, but it's been complicated every year I've been here in terms of the funding. And I do think that the current proposal will shift in various ways before anything is set in stone. I don't think that making a decision based on a what if things, the sky falls is the right approach. I mean, we can look at what's happening in our country right now, and we could go into total panic mode. And we can't do that, because we have to serve our kids that we have here today, and hopefully kids that we have here next year and the year after and the year after. I am not one of those parents because I live here, and I feel for my colleagues that are putting so much effort into educating my kids that they can't have that for their own children feels wrong. And I know other districts do it. So I think it's done. It's happening in other places. And we have the ability to make it happen here. And I really think that we need to make it happen.
All right, thank you for that comment. Okay, any other comments? We'll have our vote then. All those in favor? I'm gonna do the four. All those opposed? One, Neil. Okay, so that was a 4-1 vote. Yeah, I think it was a difficult one. I appreciate the challenges here. Okay. On to our. Who's our business, or sorry, purpose for action. Okay, on to our reports. For the chair, I don't have too much to say. I did just get my letter off, for the book. I think after looking back at the past year, I kind of reversed all the way to where we were a year ago, which I was reflecting on and remembering that at this point last year, we're still dealing with the 5% cap, which was quickly being rescinded. We were having to redo our budget. And then again, and amongst all that, I think I would, again, put kudos to Sean and the team and to your comment about our great teachers here that, the school has continued to function as if nothing at the state level is happening, and all these great things with regards to Lucy and all the things that you guys have been doing. So I think it's kind of a tale of two worlds as I was writing that letter, where the school and all the projects they've been doing, it has been completed this year, and the septic, as we're kind of ending our fiscal year here and are moving it to the, approving our next budget. Playground's done, septic's done, heating system's done, LED lights I think are going in. So we made a lot of progress despite all that. So I will say, I think the budget this year hopefully will, the numbers have moved in our favor. And then I would encourage everybody, as I end my letter, to please continue to pay attention. I know both of our legislative folks, Rebecca, in particular, and Jim are both spending a lot of time, a lot of hours looking at constant updates coming from the administration with regards to how this may or may not roll out. And again, I think we are running this as very early stages, and I think it's really, I was even saying on the way in that was that the committee that was formed is also, having a role in maybe reanalyzing and getting involved again. So there's a lot going on there. So I just encourage everybody that may watch this after, if they're not on tonight, to just pay very close attention to that, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stakeholders around. I will be forwarding you guys, at least because Neil and I have been we had a call, and again, you can't do it with the whole board or else you're not even quorum. But Rebecca has the chair and a couple of folks from, or at least Rebecca and Jen had calls, just so everyone knows, kind of a bi-weekly call, just as an update. And that is sent out actually as recently as yesterday. I think she sent a little update with some nice helpful links. So I will forward those to all of you, so you can kind of be paying attention to what's going on if you're not. All right. Questions?
Yeah, just a quick comment as you were sort of rattling off the list of all the things that have happened with facilities here. I feel like maybe that has sort of slipped under the radar at a lot of the board meetings, and it might be nice at some point before June to invite Tony to come and, just tell us about the accomplishments, because I feel like especially with the septic, we talked about it for 4 million years and it should be celebrated that it is done. So it's just a suggestion, if there's time in one of the board meetings to let the facilities people come and take a bow.
I do think from a chair perspective, probably for next month's, because our next meeting is actually to be reconvening again, right? For our
Right.
next,
For March, yeah.
right, we're gonna be reconvening the board and whatnot. Probably thinking about if we do want to have, I mean, we're going into I won't call it a quiet time, but it's not a budget time. I mean, obviously, I like going at the state level, but if we do want to, like you said, it's a great suggestion, Lisa, maybe Tony come in and Jamie also come in and kind of give a state of our facilities, and then any other thing as far as, other topics that we might want to bring up. I know we've gotten sidetracked a lot this past year with all sorts of things. But maybe we end up, do you have some particular topics that we want to talk about in a meeting or two, particularly in April and May and June, things are quieter.
I feel like that might be a good way, to tee up the capital, the capital issues. And, how things are gonna be financed going forward and where that plan is to, let's take about what's been accomplished and then talk about the lessons learned and then talk about how we'd like to finance it going forward. So,
And we may have a discussion on the roof, which I think,
yes,
I don't know how pressing that is, that we're looking at potential leaking roof by next year. And whether we can start thinking about it early or not. So, okay, my chair report is not done, yes.
Okay, can I comment on that,
Sure.
on the idea to bring in Tony and give them, thank you. I think it'd be great to have an info session for parents. I think that would be really exciting for them to see. I don't know how much glory is given to the septic system, but it would be fun. Maybe environmental club kids could walk them through that. And I think that would be, you would get a lot of parent buy-in, on those projects, and also potentially expose them to the school board and what kind of stuff may happen.
I think we should invite Tom to lead that tour.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Anyway, we can get people to it. Yeah, okay. All right. We're on to our principal's report, Sean.
Just bringing up memories of all the hours we've been talking about this sector.
I guess I sort of said, wait a minute.
We should put it as a topic just so that we can appreciate it every month.
Yes, exactly. We don't have to talk about this.
Let's see, so I have our enrollment, which is pretty much the same as last month. You can look at that breakdown of classes. What we have had of excitement, we've had 57 applicants for our pre-K program,
Wow.
which we can accept 36.
It's like we should move a grade to RMS or something.
It's a good thing you're leaving.
That's what she's not to say stuff like that.
I tried, Lily. I tried.
I think RMS.
I've been pushing it for years.
So we will accept 36 right now. We keep 2 slots open in case we have students that have high needs come in. We really want to make sure that kids who have unique services for speech and OT, PTA are able to be on the program. So we'll keep those open for a little bit and then offer them. Letters should be going out to families. They were going to go out tomorrow. They probably still will. Saying who got into the program on the first round. And then there's a small time period where people have to get back to us and commit. And then we send out to the second round. There may be, this is a long shot that I haven't talked to anyone about, there may be a possibility within our current budget for next year, depending on how big our kindergarten is, if we wanted to offer a third pre-K, if our kindergarten is lower, we might have that position. We do have 2 people on staff that are certified to teach pre-K. There could be some flexibility. That needs a lot more thought before we. Continuing on with pre-K, our pre-K program, as I mentioned before, is not run out of the AOE, it's run out of the Human Services Department. So we play by all different rules in pre-K than we do in regular ed. I was kind of hoping in all new iterations of how schools are going to work, that something would say if a pre-K program is in a elementary public school, you could just play by the same rules. As well, there's this STARS process where we, pre-K team and I, have to Then a whole bunch of documents that prove that we're doing all the things that pre-K students need, which we are. And then we get rated on how many stars our license gets renewed. So we've been working on that. Huge shout out to the pre-K team because it's a lot of pre-K director that's me, gets to take all that stuff and turn it in. But it's also great to see how our program has grown over the last few years because it really has grown from somebody. Wanted to mention that our latest PBIS celebration was a read aloud shuffle, which was fun. The staff shuffled to different locations to read the classes. Some, as you can notice in the picture in my report, dressed up. I wish Tracy was still here. She and her partner Amanda dressed up. I don't know what they're dressed up as, but. I did not dress up to go into the third grade. So, okay. The PTO came and delivered hot chocolate when we were reading, which was really fun, and the kids had a great time with it. And the last thing I want to mention is Rachel Coleman, a member of our safety committee, went with myself, Jay, Karen Wright, and the other principals at the buildings to a standard reunification method seminar that the BA hosted for us. The man who works in the Houston, Texas public school system, his whole job is to help schools with reunification. So if they have to evacuate their school for any reason, he works with them on processes to make sure kids are safely reunited with their families. And it was very insightful. I was amazed that he told us that he's done 77 in 2024. He did 77 reunifications in the Houston School District, which was just a great appreciation for where we are here. But there was a lot of information that would go back to our safety committee, because even though we never want to have to reunify, it would be great to put things in place so that if it occurs, we're prepared and ready. So huge shout out to Jay, who found that training and rallied everyone to go through it. Time of those things. See, I was thank you on behalf of the staff for approving the policy tonight. And a huge thanks for all the time and commitment that you put into thinking it through, because I agree with you, it was a bit of a risk. I think it would be good going into that telling people this is something that, depending on the way funding works, they may or may not be able to keep people. And other than that, if you have questions for me, I have.
We've never had, the pre-K has never been oversubscribed before, right?
It usually is 5, 6 or 7.
So is this because we have a lot more kids, or is this because this would, I mean, in pre-K is just one, what, do all the pre-K, this is a dumb question, but do all the pre-K go to K and then one, or is pre-K got a couple grade levels?
It's 3 and 4 year olds.
Okay, so just because there's 57 kids out there possibly, it doesn't mean that our K next year will be possibly 57. And is there, I mean, is there an advantage to talk about another pre-K section next year? Or is that something you may want to do as far as like?
I mean, I think that there certainly is an advantage to talking, but I think I would want to wait for Sean to get some, final numbers, see what that first round of, admittance results in, and then, yeah.
I also have a wonder about, do we have to supply 10 hours of pre-K? Which when I was in Barnet, we started a program that had 10 hours, and by the time parents got them there, we came and picked the kids up at 10:30. It was harder. But we might be in a position, and I would have to talk with Jamie, if we charged a nominal fee for our pre-K program, if we pay for that 10 hours, we might be able to generate enough revenue to offset some of the cost of it to just to help us, because as things change in school finance. That again,
Financial math on this one got been a bit fuzzy for me, because I remember we were talking about adding pre-K, it was kind of like, well, we get more kids in this thing, but then of course you have to hire teachers, but then they do count to the ADM, but then they don't count to a full ADM.
I think they do, don't they in the new formula? It looked like pre-K was going to count as a.
In the proposed new foundation formula, yeah, pre-K kid would count as one, rather than I think the current 0.54. So,
Really, it's like.
Very
one
small,
point
very
six
small,
seven.
very small.
Which then makes sense to me that pre-K was quite low from the ADM perspective, because at the end of the day, they are
More intense.
a little more intense.
Well, but I think that was probably based on the assumption that they were only gonna be there 10 hours a week. Right. So, yeah, but yeah, potentially could change. But we won't know until we get closer to May or June.
It's just, some of my moved to Norwich, I didn't even know that it was free, or you had some, so I sent all our kids to Montreal and Hanover and take the price, and I was like, why is anyone applying to all these things in Norwich? You can just go over there and they have like plenty around. I had no idea until the kids up in the first grade that people weren't paying for pre-K, so here we are. Okay. I moved from a big city, we had. Okay, thank you, Sean. Any other questions for Sean? All right. Who's up next? I think, Jay, sorry, I've got
Not Jay.
15 screens.
Thanks, Garrett.
flying.
Yeah, Robin is on vacation and she submitted a written report that's very thorough and covers some of the turf that you already heard earlier. I want to second what Lily said about working with such a committed and congenial board. And on top of that, it's interesting sitting here as a disembodied voice on Zoom and watching and participating in this meeting remotely. I'm just impressed by the way you take all these issues to heart and you really think critically about them and then make your decision. You know, it's like it's really refreshing to see a board function this well. And I say that too to say goodbye to Lily as a board member. Lily, you jumped in like and involved yourself in everything from negotiation to working on the enrichment grants and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's just amazing. You took it on really quickly, and I can't believe how much of your time you give to public service working as town clerk and a school board member. I mean, the hours are incredible. We're going to miss you. And I just wanted to thank you for your service. It was
Thank you.
really good and really important. So with that, the only other thing I want to talk about tonight is the fact that I'm sorry I'm not there, but I'm also sorry I'm not going to be there tomorrow because we're going to have a snow day. And I thought it warranted a little explanation. There's a certain amount of peer pressure that goes into calling snow days. I've been homesick, and then in between bouts of feeling really bad, I've been laughing because the superintendents up and down the Upper Valley have been like commiserating on our our group text that we have on the New Hampshire and Vermont sides. And it was pretty unanimous. In fact, it was unanimous. Everybody thought that with the timing of tomorrow's snow, at least the way it's predicted, it was really going to be very difficult for us to get kids home. And we thought it would be really horrible for parents to have to come and get their kids at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock. And so we're taking a chance. And I just sent a text during this board meeting to my counterparts on the Vermont side. One of the guys said, watch, tomorrow it won't snow. And I said, yeah, but at least we'll all just look foolish together. Every district has decided to cancel. So snow day tomorrow, and I hope everybody's careful. Snow's not supposed to start till 10, but then it's supposed to snow an inch an hour until 7. So we'll see how that goes. And there's some talk of ice. So everybody should be really careful tomorrow and enjoy the snow day. And that's my report.
Thank you, Jay. Yes, I do remember seeing one of those meetings a while back, and I think it hit me pretty hard when Jamie said that on those days when it snows in the afternoons, until every bus gets back home, she's on in the meetings. So that is a big, it's a big deal. Moving on, I think, Jamie, that transitions well over to you. Do you have anything tonight?
I just want to let you know that I'm putting the last exhibit in the budget book, and I will post it under this section of my report tonight. Sorry, I didn't get it done before. I don't know if you've realized it, but half of the SAU office has been out sick, so I'm one of them. And, you know, but that's okay. We're trudging along and getting stuff done. And we'll get all of the stuff posted tomorrow morning around the area, the warnings and the articles and all that. Other than that, no, I really don't. But yes, I'm glad that we're calling it tonight. And if it doesn't work out, apologies, but it's better to let folks know so they can make arrangements ahead of time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jamie. Hopefully everyone feels better.
Thank
It's
you.
probably a good thing to get everyone out of the school for a few minutes just to,
Get better.
maybe get better for 24 hours. Okay, with that, I think we move into executive session. Brian, thank you so much for.
Yes, thank you.
Our meeting. All right. Do I have a motion to move into executive session? Well,
You like to roll today.
I move to enter into executive session at 8:16 PM in accordance with Title I, Section 313 for the purpose of discussing personnel.
Lisa, all those in favor? We'll move into executive session.
And Garrett, I don't think you're gonna need me for that. There was one item on there about a principal survey that we can push to next meeting. It was just to talk about the survey itself. And,
Okay.
and I'm up on the negotiation stuff, so no one needs to worry about trying to get me. If there is a question that I can answer, just feel free to text me.
Okay.
Feel better, Jay.
Thank you.
It's Neil over.
We're back on, we return to public session. All right, do I have a motion to approve the teacher support staff agreements?
Move to approve the teacher and the support staff union agreements as presented.
A second.
We all seconded it.
Michael's gonna second this one. This is a second, a couple of minutes motion.
No, he
Alright,
needs
so-
more, if you're keeping track.
Got the second by Michael, all those in favor? All right, that is unanimous. Again, I do appreciate that from a chair perspective, as we pointed out. This is the first time in a long time that we have had contracts approved for budget season, so I think everyone around the table appreciates that, and we do thank both the teachers and the support staff for all their work that they've done on helping us get to an agreement.
And the board members who were involved.
And the board members, of course, are involved, that goes without, they get paid to do that. Okay, agenda topics for next meeting, like I said, our next meeting will be our organizational meeting. But I would like people to think about a little bit what we would like to talk about, at least maybe not so much for the next meeting, but at least for the April and May meetings, if we have anything else. Probably talking about some of the state stuff will be there, but I think to divert our attention from that, maybe getting back to a few other things that might be of interest for people with regards to the studies and whatnot, so. All right, do I have an emotion to adjourn the meeting?
I think Lily should do it.
Lily, at her last meeting, puts a tear in my eye, and has made the motion to.
Can I move to adjourn at 8:37 PM?
Second.
Lisa gotta be last.
I'll second it this
All those
time.
in favor? All right, thank you again, Lily.
Thank you all
Thank
for being
you.
such a wonderful board to work with. Thank you, John.